What is up? Welcome to the September 8th edition of Talkin' Ball. Jam-packed show today. Week 1 of the NFL, which means we got a lot to get to. We're going to talk some ball to start off. Dr. Odds segment that we're going to be doing every single week. Teasing that here. Not going to tell you guys too much about what it is. You're going to have to listen to it. Kevin O'Connell interview. Minnesota Vikings head coach. First-year head coach. He was super cool. A lot of interesting takeaways from that. Then we got to the movie club afterwards. I hope you watched American Underdog Story. If you didn't, I'll describe the whole movie to you. It's going to be electric. PVOOs, take grades. You guys sent in the Speakpipes. I'm going to give you guys some take grades. And then a would you rather to finish it off. Let's dive right in and talk some ball, shall we? First thing I want to call out, though, the PFF app. Go download in the App Store. Leave a 5-star review. It helps us out a ton if you do so. And I know I don't talk a ton about prospects. You know, the OG 2-for-1 drafts days when me and Austin first started up our podcast, we just went deep into draft prospects, all that stuff every single week. I know we don't do it as much. If you guys still have that itch, if that's something that interests you, go to the PFF app. I do a scouting notes now every single week, which basically covers everything I've seen over the weekend from draft prospects. This week, I focus on breakout draft prospects. I put videos in there, my takes, other people's takes. It's a very kind of spot for you to go every single week if you're very interested in that sort of thing. Like I said, I don't get to talk about it enough on the podcast because a lot of NFL to cover, only so little time, but make sure to go check that out if that's something you're interested in. If not, just fucking keep listening. I don't care either way. All right. Next up, Zach Wilson, Jets quarterback, out until at least week 4 with that bone bruise that, I mean, this was compared to what you thought in the moment to what, Dr. Chow was saying at the moment, obviously a positive, still a better case scenario than out for the season. But man, 3 weeks without him and obviously rolling with Joe Flacco, just not the best start to evaluate the guy who thought was going to be a franchise quarterback, but didn't show year one. Like he's going to need to show something quickly. I definitely just feel for Jets fans because left tackle off the season, Kai Becton, like your cornerstones that you've drafted the past few years just can't get off the ground. So tough to really evaluate then Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, and Zach Wilson, obviously, when the best players aren't seeing the football field. So that news dropped today. Very unfortunate for them. Next up, this one, I had to talk about this one because the NFL tweeted out a graphic that has literally every single one of their analysts picking the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl.
Do you think this is propaganda?
I don't, because I don't know whose agenda it would be to pump the Bills up this hot. Bills fan base is fantastic. Nothing against that. They're great, but they're not
considered the best fans in the NFL.
Yeah,
right. Bills Mafia.
I think it's because they know it's going to get gassed up by Bills fans. They know they want to ingratiate themselves into. Such
that's
a
what
fan
I'm
base.
saying, right?
It's
probably is it for the engagement? Because we talk about it almost every episode, right? A lot of these tweets are just purely based on I know I'm going to do numbers. I know that's 2,000 likes and retweets automatically.
What I think it is that everyone is of the opinion that the AFC, just from a pure top to bottom talent perspective, is much, much better than the NFC this year. It's not even close. And everyone wants someone from would then pick someone from the AFC, the better conference, to win the Super Bowl. And you go through and you look at the AFC North. No real clear-cut picture of who's going to win. You got the Ravens and the Bengals as favorites, but it's a coin flip at the moment from an odds perspective, which one's going to win. You look at the AFC West. Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, all could win the West. So there's no clear cut. Whereas if the Bills don't win the East, it's a surprise. So they're going to be the 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed. It would be a massive upset for that not to happen. I think the Dolphins were plus 450, had the second best odds in the division. It would be such a huge upset if they do not win the East. So everyone's okay, I can count on them being in the mix. And then I can't count on these other teams necessarily being in the mix. So it's a safer pick than everyone else in the AFC, which is, I think, kind of what everyone's fallen back to, is that kind of rationale. But also it does help that the fan base is going to gas you up when you pick them. So I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I am picking the Packers to win the Super Bowl. I'll talk about that a little bit more later in the PVOO segment, but that's neither here nor there. They're also signed Dawson Knox to an extension, one of the more underrated tight ends in the NFL, in my opinion. Heck of an athlete. I think an integral part to that offense. It looked different. I think I said it in the it was the Jags game last year where they did not have him, and the offense kind of fell to its knees. And it's because he's kind of that safe. I hate to use the word safety blanket because I think it's overused, but I do think he runs a route tree that is very much like Josh Allen. One's not there, two's not there. I'm going to Dawson Knox. Like he's going to Dawson Knox. And in that Jags game, 1, 2 weren't there. He wasn't going to anyone. He was not. He was just flustered, and that was why it was one of those worst games of the year. Also happened to be when Dawson Knox didn't play. So, good extension for them. Last thing to get to here on the Talkin' Ball segment. Sunday Night Football changed their logo, and if you want to throw it up on the YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, just go search it out. It's not even. It's calling it a logo. I think is factually incorrect. Those are words in a font. There is nothing more. It is. They've gone the Eagles route. They've gone the fashion house route. They have debranded. It's the trend. It's called debranding. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up.
That's very in. The Super Bowl logos did the same thing.
Which was an absolute crime against humanity to change. It was fucking when the Packers won the Super Bowl that they changed to the stupid just one Lombardi right in the center, because the logos before that were sick. Like it loses personality the more we do that. And like the debranding effort makes sense for something that has their hands in a lot of different things. So like it's very popular in basically fashion right now. Fashion houses and any fashion brand to have a very simplistic brand. So you can like put it on a lot of stuff, different things, and it doesn't look bad. That's kind of like the purpose behind it, is that it's versatile. You're Sunday Night Football. There's one fucking thing you're on. You're on football. There's no, let's put Sunday Night Football on a t-shirt and sell it. No one's going to buy that shit. It is, you are a TV show that happens at 8 o'clock every Sunday. You are nothing more than that. You are a brand itself. So then have some unique fucking identity to you instead of being identityless, which is kind of the whole point of debranding. So I'm getting pissed because the Super Bowl was already like, no one likes that. No one likes the new trend of Super Bowls being the blandest logos ever. You can't tell them apart. You show me a random Super Bowl logo, I couldn't tell you which one it is.
I can tell you last year's.
Yeah. I can tell you 45 too. But I just hate the trend, man. Hate the trend. All right. Had to get that off my chest. That's it for the Talking Ball segment. Let's get to Dr. Odds here, breaking down some betting from NFL Week 1. And now, glad to be joined by the one, the only Dr. Odds. It's actually Eric Eager. I didn't tease the people, but I came to you with the idea of Dr. Odds, obviously, because you're a big Dr. Oz fan, as we all are. And I say that obviously sarcastically, but instead of working on our physical health here, we're going to work on our financial health and bring in Dr. Eric Eager. So Eric, the resident betting expert at PFF, do you have rules that you hold yourself to about what to bet, how much to bet, or something like that?
Usually you try to bet with the same percentage that you have an edge. So, often most people, who do that will use what's called Kelly criterion, which is basically like proven mathematically to like increase your bankroll the most and reduce your chance of ruin the highest. But there are obvious issues with that in the sense that you don't necessarily know what your edge is. Only God knows what your edge is really. And then there are limits to books and stuff like that as well. So I generally speaking, I think that the only rule is to bet the best price available. And to do that, you have to have like a lot of different sports books. So obviously we have a partnership with MGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, all of those. You're oftentimes, just going to be able to reduce your chance of losing just by betting a good number, minus 105 versus minus 110 or minus 114 or something like that. That will give you a great deal of benefit, even if you don't know how to handicap the games. And then obviously handicapping will help you here at PFF.
Yes. So I've made rules for myself for this upcoming season. I want you to tell me if they are dumb or smart, but it's basically just keep myself in check because I know how I can get sometimes. 1-800-HOPE-NY if you're in New York. But I know I can get sometimes about betting at the blackjack table. I can get a little loosey-goosey with my betting pattern. So I'm limiting myself for 1 unit per bet. I am making a list of bets I like prior to consulting Greenline and then only betting the ones that match up. And then I'm betting my top 3 prop plays from my prop mismatch article that I'm dropping every week on Thursdays at pff.com. That's it. And then one bet per week gets 2 units. The one I feel the best about gets 2 units. And you'll help me decide every Thursday heading into the season. Dumb, smart. What are your thoughts on that strategy?
I think anybody will tell you make your own numbers, right? And that's kind of what you're doing. You're saying, okay, I'll look at the games and here's the ones I like. And then you consult differently. I think almost always, psychologically, we always anchor to, what we first see. And so if what you first see is your own opinion, given how, I've told you this before, I think you're probably the smartest football person that I know and at this company specifically. Like you're probably a decent amount of the way there. And then, any smart person, I think, probably isn't incorporating everything. And that's why going to the model and saying, okay, if the model supports this and I initially supported it, it's probably a good bet. I don't hate either vetoing plays that you like and the model doesn't like. So I think that's good. And I also think like player props are where to go. Like I bet an embarrassing amount of money on DJ Uiagalelei under 228 passing yards the other night. And even though that game was turning towards Clemson heating up a little bit, it ended up coming home. And, that bet to me was a much better bet than betting either money or either side or total. Just the total actually pushed. So the number was actually dead on. But the side, it's like, if Clemson doesn't get 2 block punts, they probably don't cover that game. And so a lot of variance there. There's less variance, I think, with individual plays relative to the market.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be 3 per week. I said 3 per week in the props. Those are probably going to be, I may not have 3 per week in the lines over-unders that match up. So that may be where the majority of my money ends up going. Let's get, though, now to your best bets of the week. What bets do you feel great about heading into week 1 of the NFL season?
Yeah, this one is weird because we've seen a lot of movement towards certain teams. Like Kansas City is now -6 when they opened -3. And every sharp person I know is on Chiefs. They're not on the Chiefs now at -6, right? There's a breaking point there. There's 2 bets I really like. And I think you're going to like one of them. But the first one is I like Las Vegas going to Los Angeles and getting 3.5. That number is sort of stayed pat. I'm not high on the Raiders this year, but this is they're weak in weak link systems. They're weak in the secondary. They're weak in the offensive line. And for a team like that, who has talent everywhere else on the roster, it's never going to be better than it is now, right? Because once injuries start happening, once poor play starts happening, the Raiders are probably going to crumble. But right now they have, they're as healthy as they're going to be the rest of the season. Adams, Renfro, you look at Los Angeles, one of their big free agent acquisitions is out in J.C. Jackson. And then the last part, which is really hard to handicap, but I do this when Carolina is playing at home against Washington because a lot of people in the Carolinas were Redskins fans when they were kids. I also will do this with when Vegas plays in LA. The Raiders were the Los Angeles Raiders from like 1982 to 1994. Like Ice Cube and all of his friends are Raiders fans, and they all come to this game. And so there's like no home field advantage.
Yeah.
Here. So I'm going to go ahead and bet the Raiders getting 3.5. That's my first one. What do you think, Mike?
I like that one for the simple fact that, like you mentioned, J.C. Jackson's out. You're going to have a full secondary to go up against this Raiders receiving core. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one. Was not one of my ones that I hit, but I like that play.
The other one I think you already have hit because I've watched your show with Trevor Sikkema. It's just football every single day so far. But I will take this as well. Green Bay going into Minnesota. There's a lot of Packers fans in that stadium. The home field advantage usually is pretty good for Minnesota, but in this game, I think you have to throw it out a little bit. And I think everybody's looking at this, and everybody loves the purple this time of year. Every single year, you sort of add it up mathematically. So Kirk Cousins is a pretty good quarterback. Justin Jefferson's an amazing player. They're not that injured right now, which is good for them because that's really what's hurt them all season. But I think the Packers are still strong where the Vikings are weak. The Packers offensive, I think at the line of scrimmage, the Packers are going to dominate this game. And, the offensive line is getting healthy. They already are pretty good. And the Vikings D-line has not been able to stop the run in forever. And, the Packers are going to lean on that run game with Jones and with Dillon. And if you run the play action game, like I just don't see how they're not going to be wide receivers running wide open. I also think Rodgers, having lost 2 of the last 3 games he's played against Minnesota, is going to be, I think, a little bit salty about this one. They're also going to be trying to avoid the 38-3 loss that they had at the hands of the New Orleans Saints last year in Jacksonville. All those things put together, I think, gives the Packers a decided edge here. Now, this is a game, if you're a Minnesota fan, you really caught the Packers at the right time. I think this is going to be the weakest the Packers are all year. I see them as a Super Bowl team, but I just, if you give me Rodgers as a short favorite against Kirk Cousins, I don't care what else is happening. I'm going to take him.
Yeah, that is one of the 4 I did match up with Greenline on. So, yeah, homerism aside, if Elgton Jenkins and David Bakhtiari play, which they're supposed to, was the word early in the week. Obviously, still a lot to be decided. If those 2 play, I feel good about the Packers in that game. Like, if they don't, maybe that changes a bit. If they do, I feel good about the Packers. All right, what's a sucker bet for the week that maybe people are trending towards, maybe that's getting pumped up, that you're like, hey, let's push the brakes? That one's probably not where I'd lean.
Yeah, it's really important to be able to reevaluate your old opinions when things move against you. And this is one where I like Washington's season win total over. I like what Scott Turner did last year. If you look at like all the stuff we all tweet about, he did it: motion, play action, negotiating box counts. He was a good offensive coordinator last year, and like Antonio Gibson averaged like 5 yards a carry when the play was perfectly blocked. He was horrendous last year. And Taylor Heineke, if you didn't give him play action, was averaging like 5.1 yards an attempt. So we all look at Carson Wentz and we're saying, okay, he's an upgrade for sure. I don't think he's good, but he's an upgrade. And you had Brian Robinson Jr. from Alabama, who was going to be an upgrade over Gibson before he got shot in the leg. And, this game opened -3.5 to Washington. And sharp bettors have done nothing but bet the Jaguars. And in fact, when the big movers, the Right Angle Sportses of the world, made all their big bets when limits went up earlier in this week, they bet heavily on the Jaguars to the point where this thing got below 2.5. So right now, Washington is -2.5. That shows an edge on PFF Greenline. But it's hard for me when I know like the NFL betting markets is as efficient as it gets. And if the market moves, off of 3, that's 9% of games land 3. So if the market's going to move that much based upon a group's bet, I'm going to go maybe with that. I'm not going to bet the Jaguars, but I'm not going to bet Washington anymore than I already have. And so to me, I think that's sitting there as a sucker bet. Jaguars terrible last year. Washington improved, but there are some very credible people who are on Jacksonville this week. So I'm going to lay off that game.
Yeah, I'm staying away from the Jaguars until I know what the hell it looks like. Like everyone, Trevor Lawrence, from the opinion we had of him coming out of Clemson to the opinion or to what we saw as a rookie was night and day. So what we see now in year 2, like I really have no clue what to expect. You look great in the preseason, sure, but it is the preseason. So yeah, I would stay away from them until we really see what Lawrence is going to look like this year. All right, what is your DGen bet of the week? The bet that is not seeing a lot of cash flow, is not seeing the handle that, some of the bets we've discussed already is, but that you like nonetheless.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to steer, I'm going to steer the people towards Greenline here. I don't know if this is necessarily as degenerate as it maybe could be. But our friend David Solfaro loves both of these teams, but he's a huge Oregon State fan. And I watched them against Boise absolutely dismantle that team. I actually do like Oregon State. Basically pick them -1, whatever, at Fresno against Fresno State. I like that one a lot. I also think unders are probably a pretty good play there. They have a great defense, good secondary as well. So that's one that I really like. And, if I venture into another sports, I think that the Chicago Sky against the Connecticut Sun, it's going to be the rubber match, the 5th game. It's tomorrow, Thursday night. If you, if things aren't going well for you in the Thursday night game, you can turn and bet the Chicago Sky to pull it out and to get into the WNBA finals for the 2nd straight year.
I love it. I will not be making that turn or making that bet because I'm going to be all eyes on the game no matter what happens, but I still love it nonetheless. All right, my 3 prop plays, I'm going to give these to you real quick, get your take on them, and then we'll get to my you'll help me decide my 2-unit bet of the week, and then we'll get you out of here. All right, my 3 prop plays. First one, Jonathan Taylor, Houston Texans. over 94.5 rushing yards, over 20.5 carries. Splitting my unit between those two. Texans had the 6th worst run defense last year. Last year, he went for 14 and 145, 32 and 143. I think the only reason this line is as low as it is, or these numbers are as low as it is, because Frank Reich said this offseason he doesn't want him to lead the league in rushing or whatever, the whole thing about his touches and whatnot. But they don't have left tackle figured out. I don't think they want to get Matt Ryan killed either. And this is a soft as toilet paper run defense in Houston that has made no upgrades. Made no upgrades over the course of the offseason. And you got Lovie Smith still running Tampa too. So I'm leaning the over on those numbers.
Yeah, I think that, Taylor last year would have gone over that prop in basically every game but 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the funny thing about last season was Taylor was very 1997 Barry Sanders-esque with this 56 yards, 51 yards, 64 yards in his first 3 games. After that, he went over the prop in every game but 3 until he got to week 17. And this is where I get a little nervous, right? The Colts, week 1 of 2020, they went to Jacksonville. They lost as 8.5-point favorites. Obviously they went to Jacksonville last year and lost as like 13, 14-point favorites. Now this is Houston. So it's indoors. Matt Ryan is going to be, but the sharp betting group that I talked about bet this game down from 8.5 to 7. Now that could play in the Jonathan Taylor favor because if the game's sort of a 1 touchdown game, then they're going to lean on him more than if it's a 3 touchdown game, right? They might take him out all entirely. So if I'm you, I'm probably putting more. I probably put 3/4 of a unit on the yardage and 1/4 of the unit on the attempts, because I think Taylor can be effective with fewer attempts. He averaged 9.5 yards per carry when the play was perfectly blocked last year. Yeah. That's going to happen against Houston. The plays can be perfectly blocked fairly frequently. I just don't know if he's going to get the volume for you to get over that 20.5. And I think to your point, like, what is the scenario where he goes over the attempts prop but doesn't go over the yardage prop, Mike?
There is none. There's basically
so like I think that's the argument just to bet the yardage, because I think you're going to, if he has a good game, he's going to go over the yardage prop and he might go over the attempts prop. But there are a lot of situations where you might just leave money on the table by taking both, because he goes 15 for 115 and 2 touchdowns and they take him out in the third quarter.
Yeah, I like that. They talked me into that one already. All right, next one, and we talked about this on the show right after I say don't bet the Jaguars, but I do believe Trevor Lawrence at the very least will stop throwing interceptions at the rate he did last season. So under a half interception for Trevor Lawrence against the Commanders is plus 127. And the other half of this is the Commanders do not have ball hawks in the back end. They had a bottom 10 coverage grade among anyone in the NFL. It really made no changes to this unit. You have Benjamin St. Juste, who's never had a pick in his life. William Jackson, who had 2 interceptions last year, which was a career high. Only 3 the rest of his career. Cam Curl didn't have a single pick last year. Bobby McCann had 4, but that was the most he's ever had. Never had more than 2 in any other single year. Jamin Davis didn't make a play in coverage all season long. So I just don't trust this team to get picks. So Trevor Lawrence, when it's juiced up to plus 127, I'll take that bet. I like
that. Plus 127. When you look at that, you basically need 44% break even probability. So you basically have to assume that he doesn't throw an interception in 44% of games. You look at Carson Wentz, year 2 under Doug Peterson, he only threw 7 interceptions in 13 games. And he, interestingly, so that gets you basically no interceptions in what looks to be like, 46%. So even if you just take that simple back of the envelope calculation, this is a positive EV play. You add to that the fact that Washington, without Chase Young, a secondary that I think will be okay, but you also, I think Lawrence is going to be on his best behavior this year too. So I like that bet a lot, and you're getting plus prices with it. By the way, that's another way. If you want a PFF Plus subscription, there's a really easy way to model out, and I wrote about this on the site, turnover worthy plays and what percent, like how to convert a player's turnover worthy play percentage to their expected interception percentage. And to me, I think that's another one. Lawrence, I think, threw a higher percentage of interceptions than you would expect from his turnover-worthy play rate. So just by a regression alone, he should be better here. And you add Peterson to the mix, I think this is a good bet.
All right, the last one. I'm not even going to get your take on this one, but Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns, plus 131, plus money, that much plus money against a Cardinal secondary that is starting a cornerback that the Raiders didn't even want starting in their secondary. That's how bad things have gotten in Arizona. Like I said, I don't need your take on that. I know you're going to love that one. All those props, by the way, you can find on PFF's props tool. PFF's props tool likes the edge on all of those props as well. So something to think about. I'm going to give you my 4 other plays here. And then of all those bets, you're going to tell me what I should make as my 2-unit bet. I have under in New England, Miami at 46.5, under that number. I have the Panthers at minus 1.5 against the Browns. I have the Packers minus 1.5 against the Vikings. And I did like the Texans at +8, but already moved to +7. So off of that bet, which of those 6 then? So I got 6 out there with the 3 props and the 3 other ones. Which of those 6 do you like as my 2-unit bet the most?
You know, it's rare that you get an over that is sharp, right? Most of the time you like unders, right? I do like that New England Miami under for sure. But it's the Mahomes bet, isn't it? Right? Like I don't think there's any way he doesn't blowtorch Arizona on Sunday. And Pat's never lost in a dome or indoors. And some of those games have been absolutely absurd. So that's the one I like, is the Mahomes over 2.5. That's just one everybody should bet for the people.
I love it. And I will be making that my 2-unit bet of the week. Eric, Dr. Odds, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for having me on, Mike. Take care.
All right, that's the Dr. Odds segment with Dr. Eric Eager. I'll be tracking those bets all season. Not going to shy away. My betting record will be out there in the public. If I do absolute dog shit, you guys are going to hear about it. If I do great, I'm not going to pump my chest. I'm not going to tweet it out ever. But you guys will know. Probably going to trend towards the former, not the latter, but we shall see.
Start a Patreon and sell your picks. That's what you need to do.
It could be,
even though PFF sells.
Can you lock a portion of a podcast? Like we do the initial part.
Yeah,
I think the Dr. Odds portion, you got to pay $5 for every week.
I think you can.
If I start cooking,
I think you could do like a separate podcast on Patreon. Yeah, I to be honest with you, I should probably know more about that than I do, because it's kind of in my realm of responsibility. But I think you can do video, audio. I think you do whatever you want.
I am not going to lock any portion. The other thing I actually didn't mention in my betting rules, I have a group chat with my brother and his brother-in-law, so his wife's brother, where we all send 3 NFL lines that we like independently of each other at the same time. We did it earlier on Wednesday. And if we all pick one line that we like, then we all chip in a amount of money that I'm not going to disclose, but it's higher than I would like. And we bet that line together as a conglomerate and as a way of checking each other. This week, we didn't have a single overlap, so we're not betting. We could go all 18 weeks without placing a single bet down, but that is our strategy that I'm just going to say right now is probably not going to do any better than just randomly picking games. So off of betting, onto actual football. I guess that's kind of actual football, but onto Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota Vikings head coach. Great interview with him. Very soft-spoken dude, but you guys will see. Here it is. I'm here with Minnesota Vikings first-year head coach Kevin O'Connell, and 7 years ago, it was just Kevin O'Connell. It was not Coach Kevin O'Connell. That was when you first got your job in the NFL as a QB coach for the Browns. That team went 3-13. You were fired after the season, but now you have a Super Bowl ring and you're a head coach. Do you ever take a step back, maybe in your free time when you're alone, and say, how the hell did I get here right now? How the hell in 7 years did I get to this spot?
Absolutely. And, I'm incredibly fortunate, my football journey from playing to where I'm sitting now, wins and losses and hard years, good years, all those things culminating with, a very, very special year last year with a lot of great players and coaches and a really great organization in Los Angeles, has had a tremendous impact on me. But I go back, to all the different people that have helped form my football philosophy, help form who I am and who I want to be as a coach. And I just think about all those influences and I'm very, very thankful for the journey so far.
That is a big reason probably why you got head coaching opportunities so early on at just 36 years old when you were hired 37 now. But you worked with, and for Bill Belichick, Sean McVay, Rex Ryan, Chip Kelly, Jay Gruden. The list goes on and on of people you've learned from and been with over the years. When you're thinking about how to be a head coach in the NFL or what you want to be as a head coach, are you taking bits and pieces from each, or is there any one of those guys in particular that really impacted your style the most?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd be lying if I did not say that I think Sean McVay is a very close friend of mine and gave me an opportunity there in LA. But he has been probably the biggest influence on me just from seeing how he's built a culture and a team and really an organization there that reflects a lot of the positive things, and the things that make up what we were able to accomplish last year. A lot of the things behind the scenes, Sean has such a great impact on and influence on as the head coach of that organization. Those things will forever stick with me, through this opportunity. Absolutely. As I get a chance to build things here myself and with the great group of coaches and players that we have here. But absolutely, some of those names you mentioned, each and every one of those guys, I think has a piece in my football philosophy, in my coaching philosophy. Absolutely, I've been lucky and really fortunate to be around those guys. But I only know one way to be, and that's authentic. And I think if I pull everything that I possibly can from all those great influences and still be myself and be authentic and real, I'll be at my best for our players, and that's what's most important to me.
So you have, a long-term deal with the Minnesota Vikings, but you went to 10 different cities in 15 years prior to this. How much did your wife hate you for that?
Well, hate would be a strong word, but I'm sure she has some, if you gave her some truth serum, there's been some times where she was absolutely questioning, the journey we were on. But I will say from day one, she's been there every step of the way. And I think the one thing, if there's any coaches out there listening at any level of football, they can attest to the fact that behind every great coach, there's normally an unbelievably special spouse that, supports you in every way, understands what it means to commit to this profession and ultimately what it takes to, build something and be a part of something special. And hopefully if she was listening, she would feel every bit a part of that, because she absolutely is, and my kids as well. So it's been an unbelievable journey. We've been a lot of places, met a lot of great people in every organization we've ever been with. And that's absolutely continued here in Minnesota. Great group, great ownership, great support staff, and then our players and coaches have been phenomenal to work with early on.
So I've always been curious, in LA, it was kind of Sean McVay's show. That's his playbook. He's play calling. How much are you on the side as the offensive coordinator kind of developing your own playbook, stashing your own plays and methodology to kind of say, when I get to run the show, this is what mine's going to look like, even if you have to run his playbook when you're there out in LA.
Well, I think that's the great thing about, coaching for Sean and being in the role as the coordinator that I was for him, is just how collaborative he is. And there wasn't a lot of need for me to stash a lot of things, because I could bring things to him and really collaborate with Matthew and collaborate with our staff and really be a part of a special game planning process that culminated with us being a really good offense and having the ability to play a lot of different ways and attack people a lot of different ways and overcome the adversity that inevitably hits, every offense in this league. But it all goes back to Sean because of his willingness and how it's built there to, allow you to be at your best and have an impact on what goes on there. So it's not only helped me, feel comfortable in that role, but it's definitely prepared me for the way I want to do things here. And it's not going to be about me. It's not going to be about any one way or the other. It's going to be about the best and right way. That's why you go through the hiring process to build a staff you want to have side by side with you every single day. And then ultimately that's just been confirmed for me, having got a chance to really work with these guys that we put together here in Minnesota.
So when you are coming up with a playbook or coming up with a game plan for any game in particular, how much are you balancing, hey, I love these plays and how they can attack whatever we're facing defensively, and hey, I have Justin Jefferson, or when you're in LA, hey, I have Cooper Kupp, and I know if I get him into a favorable situation, he can get the job done. So how much are you balancing the talent on your roster versus maybe plays that you like in the playbook?
Yeah, I think it all comes back to your offensive philosophy and what you truly want to be from your core at that foundation. What are the principles that carry true week in and week out? And then, you apply the players that you have, the personnel that you have, to be multiple, but yet feature, the best guys that you have in those critical moments, and trusting them to win matchups within man coverage, zone coverage, how you run the ball, all those things. But I think it is important to have a foundation of what you want to be, and explain that, give the players the why behind it. So you're really not selling much at that point. And then when the game plan thoughts throughout the season come during a 17-game season, if you can tie those things into the core of what you are as an offense, obviously you're going to have some outliers from time to time. But if you stay true to who you are as an offense, and those players can really embrace that, they really know what they're building around every week, and they know what they're getting when they show up, on Wednesdays to start a work week.
So when you get the job with the Vikings in February, have you found yourself debating ever pulling a Brian Kelly and mixing in a Minnesota accent when you're speaking to the Minnesota people?
You know what? You'd think that I'd have it figured out by now with being in a lot of places over the last 15 years. But, I am who I am, and that's who I'm going to be. And I'm sure, whether it was growing up in New Jersey, moving to California, and then all over the places that I've been as a player or coach, I'm sure if you got me saying the right word or two, I could probably figure out a few of those accents.
You throw in an ope, or you betcha, because I'm from Wisconsin, and I got the northern accent. It still creeps in every now and then, but I've kind of lost it, having moved away. But it is a unique one. But you came in with also Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, complete brand new staff there in the front office and the coaching staff. How have those conversations gone? Because when you were, playing the NFL, he's trading on Wall Street, trading commodities. He comes from a basketball background, playing at Princeton, a completely different, two different kind of worlds, or two different viewpoints of how you attack the game of football. How have those conversations gone, trying to find common ground and how to best win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's been one of the coolest parts of this job. I had a relationship with him, having spent some time in San Francisco for that 1 year when he was obviously there, working for the Niners as well. We were both, young. I was, really in my second year. He had kind of recently transitioned into being on the football side, but we still established, a chemistry and a friendship there that really picked up from day one, from the first day I stepped foot here at our facility, and even throughout the interview process, you could feel it. And it's just been confirmed. He's an unbelievable person, incredibly intelligent, great communicator. The collaboration that exists in our building between obviously the personnel staff and our coaching staff, and really everybody who gets in around our players. I think if you had each and every one of them on, they would all say the same thing, that it's real. It's not a cliche. It's something that matters on a daily basis, and people feel like we're building something on a foundation that can hopefully sustain because of that. And I give him so much credit for that. I've said this before, but there's really no one else in this league I would rather be paired up with, on a day-to-day basis, building a football team together than Kwesi, and that continues to be confirmed each and every day I come to the office.
So what was going through your mind then on draft day when you're sitting there with Jamison Williams on the board, Kyle Hamilton on the board, and Kwesi's like, we're going to trade back, when the Jimmy Johnson old school trade value chart says maybe you're getting a little fleeced on this trade, but the new school analytics, what we would say here at PFF, was you guys are winning this trade in terms of value added. So what's going through your mind there when you guys make that trade?
Yeah, I think we had a plan, and I think our draft when that last pick went in to complete the 2022 NFL draft, I think a lot of that plan came to fruition of how we wanted to build our team, the type of players at certain positions we wanted to go get, and I think Kwesi deserves so much credit for navigating those scenarios. And the only thing I would just add is, I wouldn't go challenging a former Wall Street guy on any trade charts and values anytime soon. It would not be in anyone's best interest. But like I said before, nobody I'd rather be doing this with. And the fact that, every time we're in a room together, I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but yet he never makes me feel like that. that's a hell of a quality to have in a guy working side by side with you every day.
So the Vikings obviously bought into analytics from trade value charts, maybe team building perspective. But what can we expect from a play calling standpoint? Because Sean McVay was notoriously a little conservative on fourth downs in terms of go for it decisions. What can we expect from you in those same situations?
Yeah, I think every situation is its own. And I think, analytics can be an unbelievable tool to help in that decision-making process. But at the same time, a lot of it goes into some of those things that are hard to put into the data sets and to help spit out the right and wrong answer. Sometimes if it was that easy, I think it would be pretty much cut and dry. Everybody would be doing the same thing. But I do think philosophy comes into play, how you're trying to win the game, how you've talked to your team about how we need to win this football game. So when that fourth down decision happens, or a decision to be aggressive or maybe not so aggressive in a 2-minute end of half or end of game situation, there's very little gray area that exists between the plays and the philosophy that ultimately you're having your players. Once those 11 guys step on the field, it's about those guys and their comfort in not only what you're trying to do situationally, but schematically as well. But I think we'll treat each and every situation as its own. We'll obviously have a ton of dialogue as a staff. I've got some great situational, help on the staff, and a guy like Ryan Cordell, who's done that at different spots. And then a former head coach in Mike Pettin. Ed Donatell's got a ton of experience, as do a lot of the coaches on our staff. So I'll rely on those guys. But in the end, I'll make the decision, whatever that is, that I think is in the best interest of our team to win that particular game.
And so you are going to have help in terms of analytics, some guy in the booth giving you the numbers and what the data says at any given time during fourth down decisions?
Absolutely.
Love it. All right, let's get to your background a little bit, because unique background, obviously. Your father was an FBI agent. I know when I watch like football movies that I can tell when it's, not adding up, that it's not how it actually works in real life. Is that the same for you when you watch crime movies? You're like, this is not how the FBI works.
It's one of those things where you'd be surprised which ones he actually says are real and which ones aren't. I'm always surprised to get that answer myself, but no, he's I'm very lucky to have had a dad that had that kind of job, that kind of commitment to his job, while also still being a great dad and being around as much as he was when he was around, and the impact he had on me. So he's one of those people that I absolutely look up to for a lot of different reasons. But as far as those crime movies, I definitely never miss out on a chance to be like, that's got to be BS, or is that real? And like I said, you'd be surprised at the answer sometimes.
I love it. So I know you went to broadcasting briefly, but did you ever think about going into acting? Because I feel like you got the look. I feel like you could have done it.
Well, I don't know about acting, but I think my broadcasting career was short for a reason. And when Mike Pettin called me and offered me an opportunity to coach football, it was what I thought I was, kind of meant to do. And then it was, like you said, then it was just about figuring out if my wife was going to allow me to do it or not. And would you be willing to kind of, get on that ride to a lot of different cities, a lot of different places, raising our family, in a lot of great places. And so the journey, I can't say I predicted it or could say that I'd be sitting here talking to you as the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, but I'm very thankful for the path that I've been on and all the the wonderful people along the way.
So you were in broadcasting with you were on the San Diego State broadcast team for a little bit as sideline reporter. Did it give you a little newfound respect for the media side, or are you like, these guys got it made? This is easy. This is cakewalk. These guys don't. It's not as hard a job as they make it out to be.
No, it absolutely did, and it was a good lesson for me, because I understand, the media has a job to do, and it's not always easy as a coach or a player to help make that job easier. But when we can, I think it's a great opportunity to help ultimately the most important thing, which is connect with our fans. And I think you guys do a great job of educating our fans, but also, helping connect us on a daily basis to those great fans that we have, especially here in Minnesota. So, I absolutely, remember those days and remember some of the lessons I learned and the hard lessons of, when a coach just wouldn't answer a question that I kept on asking, and what that made my job like, as like I said, in my illustrious 2-year broadcasting career.
I will tell you right now, though, some people do make it look a little harder than it actually is. There are some people who make it look difficult. But last question here. It's a question I ask everyone on this, because this is a podcast about football and the game that unites us all. You're 6'5", 225 pounds. That's like ideal size for any sport. Why'd you fall in love with the game of football over pretty much anything else you could have been doing in the world?
Well, my first love was basketball, and I absolutely loved it. I still try to play when I can. My body doesn't always cooperate these days, but I think that size, it equates to having the opportunity to play quarterback or maybe another position in this great game. And I remember a couple times at San Diego State getting to actually get out and run and play a little bit with the basketball team, and feeling very, very small. I became a stand-up, 3-point shooter, stay out of the key. Don't go down there with those big fellas. And I realized I was playing the right sport all along.
I love it. Thanks so much for the time, Coach. Really appreciate it, and good luck to you this season.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thanks, man.
Whew. Kevin O'Connell. I did not expect him to say that basketball was his passion at the end there. That one, and I can relate, probably growing up, obviously because I didn't play football in high school. I loved playing basketball. Obviously, I loved playing football when I did, in 7th grade. But basketball was great. I did not expect him to be, all the way into college still being yeah, I fucking loved basketball. That was interesting. So definitely relatable, though, from me. But now on to the movie club. If you're not part of the Talkin' Ball movie club, if you didn't watch American Underdog the last 2 weeks, that you're missing out, guys. You're missing out on some cinematic genius. Honestly, it was like Air Bud, but with an actual human. It was pretty. It was a tough slog. I watched the first half with Austin Gale. He could not make it past the first half. He ducked out. He's a movie snob in his own right, but even me, it was tough. You knew it was going to be bad, so I'm going to give you a little movie report, a book report here. You knew it was going to be bad. Well, in the very first scene, it's a practice scene from him at Northern Iowa. No, not a practice scene, a game scene. And the announcer over the loudspeaker says, "In comes Kurt Warner. Remember, he was highly recruited and sat on the bench for 4 years." Really hitting you over the head with something that just a guy over the loudspeaker would never say in the middle of a game. And it's blaringly obvious that he's trying to play a college student. Zachary Levi, the main character, plays Kurt Warner. He's 41 years old at the time of shooting. It looks utterly absurd.
He looks it too. There's a lot of people that will play high school the Euphoria people. They're not high schools. They're way older than that. But
But this one looks
pass Zach Levi, and that's not even a knock. 40's not old, but he looks like he's 41 years old.
I look like more of a college student than him. I look nothing like a college student. And then who he's dating, Brenda, who ends up dating, Anna Paquin, 40 years old, and now she is older than him in real life, 5 years older. And Kurt Warner was being a big simp in the movie. He shows up at her house unannounced and plays with her son, which is absurd. After they had just met at the bar. I would
not recommend that.
After they had just met at the bar that weekend, they had just met at the bar. That's what he does. It was pretty absurd. And then when they first make out, he says, "How does it feel to make out with a future professional athlete?" So that part of the movie, I can't believe Kurt Warner signed off on that, which makes me a little afraid that maybe he said that in real life at some point. But they kind of did him dirty.
Do we know if he signed off on that? Because I know,
he was pushing it out. He was pumping it. He was really promoting it.
Because I know, I think The Blind Side with Michael Orr, he watched that and apparently was hated it. Yeah, I'm not down with this. So sometimes guys, maybe don't get consulted as much as they should. But I guess if Kurt Warner's pushing it, then I guess he probably did sign off on it.
Yeah. So he goes from Northern Iowa, gets a tryout with the Green Bay Packers, and they show Lambeau Field, and it's like Lambeau Field yesterday. It is. They don't even try to make it look like Lambeau Field in the 90s when it looked like a green trash can with the corrugated metal on the outside and the yellow stripes. It's no, it's the brick modern version, which probably made me more mad than anyone else watching it. But he goes to the Packers. They sign him to a tryout that day, gets asked to go in by Steve Mariucci, and refuses to enter practice because he doesn't know the playbook. Like, they did Kurt Warner dirty, or else he's the dumbest human being alive, and refused to actually go in and try to play football. And that's why they cut him. So he ends up going and working at a Hy-Vee, boxing, or, shelving, I can't fucking talk right now. Putting things on the shelves. What's that called? Why am I blanking on what that's called? Stocking shelves.
Stockroom, yeah.
Stocking shelves. My God, that one was tough to get out. Stocking shelves at a Hy-Vee. They have this cool scene where he throws a Wheaties box that he's staring at to his coworker, and it looks like he's, winning the Super Bowl. Very tropey stuff. Pretty ridiculous. And then he's approached to play in the Arena Football League, and he gets pissed off about it. He's like, no, I play real football. As he's stocking shelves at Hy-Vee, actually not playing real football at all. He's like mad. And for some reason, Quinn, if you have this picture, he decides that he's going to play in the Arena Football League at a diner with like 4 hamburgers on his plate. They don't explain why he has 4 hamburgers on his plate.
You got to bulk up.
It looks ridiculous.
He made his decision right then and there. He just didn't tell him yet. And if you were sharp, you could be like, oh, that guy's eating a lot. Like, he's trying to make sure that he's sturdy enough to withstand the rigors of Arena Football League season.
That's when he decides. And the Arena Football scenes are like straight out of NFL Blitz. I'm surprised they didn't have someone leading with like their feet coming in to make a tackle, like kicking them in the head. It was pretty ridiculous. But the thing I hated about the movie the most probably is that there's no improvement arc for Kurt Warner. It's just he plays well based off of like how in love he's feeling with Brenda at any given point in time. Like, he starts the Arena League and he looks like he's never played football in his life initially. And then he gets like a pep talk. Brenda breaks up with him and he gets to the Arena Football League finals. And they have, in the Arena Football finals, he loses with a dead ringer for the play that he then wins the Super Bowl on if they weren't trying to lay it on too thick for you. But Brenda breaks up with him. That all happens in the Arena Football League. And then they get back together because Brenda's parents die in a tornado. They have no other interaction about why they get back together other than just that her parents died. And she says to him at the funeral, she's like, you better not be here. I'm going to remember this the rest of my life. And he says, I know. And they get back together right there. It was pretty electric. The other things I had, Mike Martz, they did him very dirty in this. He looks like an absolute sociopath in all the lines that he has. At one point, this is a direct quote. He says to Kurt Warner, tell me why a team worth $800 million with one of the most complex offenses ever built by me should put you in the driver's seat. And then after the very first drive that Kurt Warner plays for the Rams, he calls him on the phone and says, just kidding. I did all that just to test you.
That was cool. Do you think I guess like you could probably go back in like some old NFL films, but like there's no way that quarterbacks and offensive coordinators are having conversations like that on the horn, right? Like it's just like, what'd you see on this play? Okay,
right.
Gotta go. I gotta dial up the next drive.
That's what it is. He's over the phone after the first drive calling up the box, and Mike Martz is like, I always believed in you. You just had to make you prove it to me or something. And oh my God. It was tough. And then the other thing that pissed me off is they kept calling him a rookie in the movie. It was his second year with the Rams that he won the Super Bowl. Like, they go through the whole season and they keep saying it's his rookie year. Why do we have to lie about that? It's still an insane story if it's his second year. We don't have to keep calling him a rookie. I didn't like it on the whole. It honestly should have been a documentary. It's an awesome story. Like, it truly is. Like, I didn't know a lot of the stuff going into the movie that they showed in the movie, and I was looking it up, and it is, vast majority was true except for him being a rookie, but it's a crazy story.
The whole thing, like because I remember Kurt Warner pimping it like before it came out. He's like, I want this to be like inspirational, and it is. Yeah, it's kind of cheesy.
It just should.
They didn't go about it in maybe the best way, but it is inspirational.
It just should have been documentary. And other thing, okay, last thing that made me upset, the Dick Vermeil quote, the like all-time Dick Vermeil quote where he says, we will rally around Kurt Warner. The year they ended up winning the Super Bowl, we will rally around Kurt Warner and we'll play good football. They misquoted. He says, we will play good football in the movie instead of we'll. Maybe I'm a little more upset about that than I should, But it's like an all-time quote. It's one of the best quotes in NFL history. A guy saying that about a completely unproven quarterback to then win the Super Bowl, having that quote, and he was like getting emotional as he said it. To butcher that quote was just a very, very on brand for this movie.
Well, a lot of the historical stuff is like inaccurate. Like the scene where he's like sitting in like in the back of the grocery store, or wherever they're at, and he's like watching film, and his friend comes in and he's like, "Hey, let's go." And he's like, "No, I can't. I got work to do." And he's like, "They'll never draft anybody out of Northern Iowa." And like I looked it up. He signed in 1994. Before that, 9 players out of Northern Iowa had been drafted, including a guy named Kenny Shedd, who was a wide receiver that the Jets took in the 5th round in 93, the year before.
So
like if you were watching tape on him,
yeah,
like you had to have seen, I'm not saying that you're going to draft his quarterback, but like you at least saw him and was like, oh, this guy might actually be pretty good.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I had, like the guy that played Marshall Faulk.
Oh yeah.
His name is O.J. Simpson.
O.J.
Keith Simpson. Which like that, like,
how do you agree to that role as a runner? I mean, like I get him, but how do you hire a guy as, you know, a movie producer whose name's O.J. Simpson to play a running back?
For any role, really? It's like, yeah, dude, like I can't hire. But if you look him up, like if you look up O.J. like that actor, he really like apparently is hammering home like the O.J. Keith Simpson, which
you should.
Yeah, you need to. You need to differentiate.
And he was named after O.J. Simpson. Like his dad was a huge USC fan. I looked this whole thing up. He was, very unfortunately, named after a
also the guy that plays Isaac Bruce, Simeon Castile, former Bengal.
Oh, nice.
2008. Yep. Cornerback.
Bruce was nails. I had actually forgotten about Bruce go-ahead touchdown in that game because everyone thinks of the last play, Dyson at the goal line. But Bruce had the go-ahead score on a pretty sick, like a deep, it was like 70 yards or something. All right, PVOOs. That's okay. Next movie though for the movie club. 2 weeks after week 2, post week 2, we're gonna watch prescient one because of all the shit they put on the helmets this preseason. Concussion. Will Smith. Getting deep into the movie vault here. We're not watching a lot of good movies. I'll just say. But that's the beauty of the Talking Ball Movie Club.
I watched like a snippet. It was on TV not too long. It wasn't. It was better than American Underdog.
I do,
or at least the part I saw. So
yeah, no one talks about concussions though anymore, man. It's because and then there was like a study that came out saying that like it was so highly correlated to playing youth football, which, duh, like taking hits at 6 years old probably not the greatest for you. So glad that that's not like a huge talking point. A little bit of a bummer to always talk about, like we did like 6 years ago. All right. Speaking of not bummers, PVOOs. Positive vibes only online. Some of the best / worst takes I saw from the week that was. And this one I have to start off with this. Desmond Howard and his playoff predictions for college football. And he has Texas A&M 1, Baylor 2, Michigan 3, Pitt 4. Not a single team with better odds than plus 2,000 right now to win the national championship. I can't do this. You know, some people are capable of that, just completely dishonest, draw up a headline. People are going to see this. Those fan bases are going to feel good sort of takes. I can't do that. And this just completely ignores how the college football landscape works. You know, Bama, Georgia, or Ohio State, one of, if not all three of those are going to be in the playoff. There's just not a scenario where all three aren't. That's utterly absurd. I can't do that. Des, more power to you if you make a living that way. I'm not going to hate on how everyone makes a living, but I can't do that. I can't do that. All right. Next up is Mike Golick Jr. And it pains me to do this to a fellow Domer, but I have to call it bias when I see it. And he said this. He tweeted this Saturday night after Notre Dame lost. If you're an ND fan chirping Tommy Rees right now, I don't need the film to know you're a freaking loser. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Dorks. Few things here. Few things to pick through. Maybe he was hammered, tweeted it out. I've done that. I've had a lot of takes that I regret in that case. But I don't think this is one. Like, this doesn't necessarily qualify for that because this to me is bias. Like, he is too close to the situation and cannot see the tree through the leaves. He is too close to Tommy Rees. Obviously, Mike Golick, played on the same teams as Tommy Rees, friend of his, to objectively evaluate situation, which was the offense scored 7 points the last 2 games. Bowl game last year, 7 points in the second half of the last 2 games. Bowl game last year, Ohio State game week 1, and just crawled into a shell the entire second half of those 2 games. That's worthy of criticism. I'm not going to police how fans, I'm not going to tell fans not to criticize with warranted criticism. Now, never cross the line with, your threats and what your criticism and like how you're approaching it. Never be nasty or disrespectful or like threatening. Did not mean to use the word threat in the first place. Do not be threatening when making it, but simply pointing out that the offense wasn't good and he's the play caller and the play calling had some issues Saturday night is very fair. It's very fair. And I know I get accused of bias when it comes to Notre Dame and Green Bay, which is what I alluded to off the top. But that truly is only when it comes to picks, like picking those teams. I will objectively evaluate the roster, tell you their strengths and weaknesses, tell you that the Packers have the worst receiving core in the NFL. And then I'll just be like, they're probably going to win the Super Bowl still too. Just because that's how my fandom pours through. But in terms of evaluating, coaching staff, the players, I feel like I'm not biased in that regard. Now, picking them, it sneaks in. Why not? Why? There's no downside. Very little. All right, next one up on this list. I don't know who's running PFF College, but they're getting a little too frisky. This
was fantastic.
This tweet was insane. PFF College tweeted out about KJ Jefferson, the Arkansas Razorbacks quarterback. KJ Jefferson, with the graphic of his yardage, said KJ Jefferson got that hog in him.
KJ Jefferson played well. He did have that hog in him.
Got that hog in him. I still haven't figured out who tweeted that. I need to get on the case. That was just, saw that Sunday and I just stopped dead in my tracks. I'm like, I don't have to go any deeper into it. You guys all understand what's going on there. It was a little too frisky. Although apparently, I guess Lee Corso had said earlier in the day something about he's got the hog in him or something. I don't know if he was quoting that, but we can't be making plays like that. That's just going to alienate some fans. Going to alienate maybe KJ Jefferson. All right, next one up. Howard Eskin, who is on radio in Philadelphia, Sports Radio 94 WIP. This tweet's an all-time Hall of Fame caliber tweet. He tweets out, Jason Peters has done it again. He's stealing money, but it's great that the Cowboys are the ones taken this time. Passing along the thoughts with handcuffs when Jerry Jones realized Peters has taken another team. Sad for a future Hall of Famer. One, Peters has taken nobody. He's made like very little money the last 2 seasons for how well he's played at offensive tackle. He's taken like 1 year, $1.5 million deals comparatively to how well he's played. 77.9 pass blocking grade last year. Very well. It's still at age 39. He'll be 40 this year, yes, but probably still better than about half the left tackles in the NFL in terms of pass protection. And then to tweet that out with a picture of Jason Peters and then also a picture of handcuffs in case we didn't get what Eskin was trying to get at there. In case we didn't understand that I honestly still don't understand what he was getting at with the handcuffs. He's stealing? Who's the one that should be put in handcuffs? Peters? That just doesn't make sense, dude. I really hate that tweet. I really don't know what to say. It's wrong on so many levels. That's Sports Talk Radio though for you. Howard Eskin. That was awful. All right, last one here. From Eric Moody, ESPN fantasy analyst. And this one you can replace with like 10 different names because it happens every year. And he tweeted out, Wan'Dale Robinson has the potential to become the New York Giants version of Tyreek Hill. And some of you don't even care. There's one Tyreek Hill. All right. The closest one to Tyreek Hill plays with Tyreek Hill. And it's Jalen Waddle. But we do this every year. someone's like, reminds me of Tyreek Hill. Rondale Moore reminds me of Tyreek Hill. Short, fast. Short, fast is not what it takes to be Tyreek Hill. You have to be faster than everyone. That's what it takes to be Tyreek Hill. And you have to be quicker than everyone, too. And you have to attack the ball like a fucking animal down the football field. You got those three things, we can talk about you being Tyreek Hill. You got that dog in you, we can talk about it being Tyreek Hill.
What about that hog in you?
Got that hog in you, we can talk about being KJ Jefferson. But Wan'Dale Robinson ran a 4.41. He's not the fast wide receiver on the Giants. Faster than Kenny Galladay, though. But that's just, we got to stop. We have to stop. And the thing is, like, I think this was actually sent to me by, I believe, a Talking Ball listener. I think this is how general managers kind of think, though, right? Like, everyone's kind of chasing that. Is why these guys are getting drafted highly. That they're like, ooh, you know, like, he could be Tyreek Hill-esque-ish in our offense. It's like, no, that's just, that's why a lot of these guys haven't turned out.
You also don't have to have that particular skill set, though, right? Like, it is nice if you have somebody that can run like that. But again, to your point, like, he is like one of one, and you could just also just draft a really good receiver. Yeah,
and you could
like a T. Higgins that just gets open and just makes plays and is going to get you like 1,200 yards.
Wan'Dale could be prime Cole Beasley, and that's a great pick. But we don't have to be dishonest about the skill set they bring to the table. And I like the he went with Ian Hart. It seems like none of you care. That's something you don't even care. That one's always, it's a good engagement play. I respect that. But factually specious, to say the least. All right, we're going to grade some takes. You guys came with some heat in the speak pipes. So we got 3 takes on deck. Quinn, breaks off. Which one are we going to first?
We'll go with Titans 420.
Okay.
So on the PFF NFL podcast with Steve Palazzolo, Mike, you said that due to a lack of preseason productivity, Treylon Burks is not ready to produce come week 1 of the NFL. And I think you're wrong. So the Titans utilize this draft hack. They draft bigger players that underperform at the combine because they know that whenever the pads come on and that extra weight comes on, bigger guys have an easier time maneuvering in the pads. That's why on tape, Treylon Burks looks like he runs a 4.3 when he's really not quite as fast without pads on. Compared to a little dude with pads on, Treylon Burks is a specimen. Same as A.J. Brown in the second round, Derrick Henry in the second round. Titans hack. Tighten up.
Okay. I guess I don't think that's crazy, the drafting bigger players. From their draft sort of history, they definitely haven't drafted a lot of small guys, like on the smaller end for their respective positions. Caleb Farley, very big cornerback. You know, Jeffrey Simmons, well-sized, 310, 315-pound DT. Isaiah Wilson, obviously a massive, probably only getting bigger offensive tackle. Treylon Burks, obviously large. Rashaan Evans on the larger side for a linebacker. Harold Landry, that's probably not the case for your second-round pick back in 2018. Corey Davis, a bigger receiver. Dory Jackson, not really, kind of on the smaller side. Like, I'm not sure there's enough evidence there. Christian Fulton, the second rounder, he was just under 6 foot, nearly 200 pounds, probably solidly built for a cornerback. I wouldn't call him big, you know, not like Caleb Farley is. So I'm not sure there's enough evidence there to really go to bat for that theory as like that's all they draft. They definitely haven't gone towards a lot of guys who are undersized for their respective positions, but that's kind of, you know, not a lot of undersized get drafted in the first, second round. That's kind of just why the undersized moniker is what it is. But like, people don't like taking chances on physical outliers at respective positions. So my point was more that he wasn't ready based off of what we saw from college and based off of then what we saw from him in the preseason, based off of like the depth chart. So I grade this taking the low 60s. We give it 62.3. It's just, there is something there to the drafting bigger guys, but that doesn't really have anything to do with Treylon Burks and how ready he is as a rookie. If it did, he would have looked better in the preseason. He would have looked better in training camp. He would be starting over Kyle Phillips. But with none of those things being true, it's going to come in with a low grade for me. All right, who's up next? Let's speak.
62.3 is actually above average in the
Is
PFF
that?
system. I thought 60 was average.
I've lost
Am I
track
wrong?
of the PFF grading system. I thought I was in like the
Okay,
high
well, we
60s.
should probably know
All right,
that,
I'll
so
bump
you
it down. We're going 58.3 then.
All right, deal. We'll go with V.
Hey, Mike, what's up? This is Vishnu. Grade this take. The discourse on the Bengals and the Bills this offseason is the height of a double standard. Everyone is quick to write off the Bengals' run last season as fluky when they had arguably the best performing quarterback, best receiving core, and they accomplished this behind a dog shit offensive line that has been markedly improved at almost every position. Not to mention, they've invested draft capital in strengthening the depth of what was already a very good secondary. It seems that many people hold regular season losses to the Jets and the Browns against them. Meanwhile, we forget that this Bills team lost to the Jags, lost to a Patriots team that threw the ball twice in a game, and their secondary got torched in the divisional round. Plus, their offensive line still remains garbage this year. Are we overly dismissive of the Bengals running it back in the AFC? And no, Quinn did not pay me to say this.
I like the take. I do think the Bills coronation, as I said off the top, a touch premature. You know, for a team that didn't even make the AFC Championship game, and that's disingenuous on my part to even argue that. They had as good a chance as any as the Chiefs did in that game. But I do think they weren't world beaters last year. This was not, as he said, they lost to the Jaguars. This was not an infallible roster. And in actuality, they had guys like have some career years, play above their probably pay grade that maybe could take a step back. You know, Tre'Davious White obviously wasn't there for the playoffs, but he's no sure thing to come back from an ACL just being the Tre'Davious White we knew of old. You got a rookie starting at the other cornerback position. You got a great safety duo coming off a great year where they both tied for the league in picks, but they're both in their 30s at this point on the downsides of their career. And the one spot I worry is the offensive line. Offensive line is, on paper at least, not much better than it was a year ago. Like maybe Spencer Brown going into year 2, you can expect an upgrade. Roger Saffold at like damn near 35 at this point. I don't think you can expect him to come in and play quality football. Yeah, you're banking on Gabe Davis improvement in year 3. James Cook being an improvement as a runner. Von Miller adding to that pass rush. But they had Jerry Hughes last year who was still getting the job done. So I'm not sure that's a huge upgrade. If you just said on paper what team to me upgraded more over the course of the offseason, I'd probably lean the Bengals. That offensive line upgrade is fucking massive. 4 guys, 4 upgrades, more likely than not, depending on how Cordell Volson plays. But if you beat out Jack Harmon, who was starting last year, then you would probably call that an upgrade. So 4 upgrades along the offensive line. Were the Bills probably a better team last year? Yeah, they were. But I do think the Bengals probably got better in team building purposes. So I'll give that take, I'll give a high 70s. 78.6. 78.6 for Vishnu. That's a good take. We got one more.
Highest grade so far. This last one is from Bernie.
Hey, Mike. It's Bernie here. I think the Niners, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, should potentially be on the hot seat this season if Justin Fields outplays Trey Lance over the course of the season, and we'll get a good look at both of them as they play each other in Week 1. I think in the pre-draft process, everyone was super high on Justin Fields. Everyone had him as consensus QB2. Some smart people like JT O'Sullivan even had him as QB1. Obviously, he had the physical tools, all the physical tools that Trey Lance has, but then also played at a higher level of competition. Obviously played more games and had better collegiate production. But it seems like when the Niners made that selection, no one really kind of questioned it. 1, because everyone loves Kyle Shanahan, and 2, because of the perceived higher ceiling of Trey Lance, probably just because of his physical tools. But in reality, I'm just wondering if we should have questioned that more, because Justin Fields has those same physical tools. And like I said, obviously have the collegiate production. And I'm kind of thinking that leads to a higher ceiling than Trey Lance's perceived ceiling. So I'm just wondering what you think about that, and if they should be on the hot seat.
I don't think he should be on the hot seat. I do think it was worth criticizing. There were a lot of people that did criticize it at the time. And I think the bigger thing worth criticizing is just the sheer amount they gave up for the uncertainty of a guy who's going to be QB3 in a class. Now, I get it was a very good quarterback class, but one, the NFL's really struggled to identify quarterback talent. So to feel that good about who you know is going to be there at 3, that he is going to be the guy, and that I'm going to mortgage my entire future, because if that guy doesn't, with the move they made, if Lance doesn't work out, they're going to be very hamstrung from a team building perspective. So I don't think as much who they drafted is the sort of criticizable part there. It's what they mortgaged just to draft that guy when, as it stands right now, they could have drafted Mac Jones, who looks already better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And, TBD how his career will play out versus Trey Lance. But looks like a guy who, could have given you Jimmy Garoppolo's production for not the Jimmy Garoppolo cost. So I think that's what's worth criticizing, is that giving up that much talent evaluation perspective. I don't think there's a lot of people who are super low on Lance. Everyone just agreed. He's a fucking wild card. Fewer than 400 career dropbacks in college football. FCS. Never played, in the FBS and in a run-heavy offense. So I think that's worth criticizing, is that they made the play in the first place. Talent evaluation, I don't think so. But John Lynch has earned, as far as draft track record goes, he's got a good one. He's drafted a lot of good players over the years, whether it's George Kittle in the 5th round, whether it's Fred Warner in the 3rd round, Deebo Samuel in the 2nd. He's earned the right to not be put on the hot seat just because of one bad move, in my opinion. So go a little lower. I think you're onto something, Bernie, but I can't go all the way. So I'm going to go right middle, 68.4. I think that's right about where average is. PFF grades. All right, there are your Speakpipes. We had some other ones. We had one that came in, compared me and Austin. Not going to run that on the show, guys. Come on. Can't be doing that. Last segment here. Would you rather? We're moving power rankings to Monday because we got such a jam-packed show today. But would you rather, again, player? Would you rather a unit? Or would you rather a random? Well, I almost went back to my list days there. Quinn, I'll pose mine to you first. Player. Tom Brady in 3 years or Matt Ryan in 3 years? Who are you more likely to want as your quarterback?
I think this is pretty easy. I think I'm banking on Tom Brady just
really
defying. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. He maybe takes another hiatus from training camp and goes to Europe and gets that blood
Germany
therapy that Kobe and A-Rod and all them had.
Dude, I bet that feels sick, that stuff. I bet you feel amazing.
Oh, yeah. That. But I don't know. In all seriousness, I know he'd be what, 48?
Yeah, so he'd be 48. Matt Ryan be 40.
Tom Brady is still. You can make an argument that he's still the best quarterback in the NFL. I'm not saying that, but he's top 5. I think almost unanimously everybody would agree.
Yeah.
And
he's got a stronger arm than Matt Ryan.
That's what I'm saying. Matt Ryan, a lot of people were saying he's cooked. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what happens this year, people are saying he's cooked, and Tom Brady's still playing at a high level. So I'm just, if for nothing else, based on that. I know that number 48 is unprecedented, but at least you're seeing it, because Matt Ryan's arm, I think he'll be decent with the Colts, mm-hmm. but he his arm is cooked. He's gonna have to do it in a different way.
Yeah, Fuck, I think you talked me into Brady too. Damn.
Plus, it's just hard to doubt Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think you talked me into Brady, because Matt Ryan is kind of the normal aging curve, right? Or at least has looked like it. He's 37. The amount of guys that were doing it at 37 20 years ago was very low. It was a rarity for a guy to be playing that well that late in their career. So
yeah, and 37 now is expected.
Yeah,
right. If you're a franchise quarterback that signs one of these huge deals, if you're not still balling at 37, you fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, you got one.
Yeah. So you just mentioned Austin, and you just mentioned 2 QBs. The Ringer dropped their QB list the other day. Did you see that?
Oh, I did not.
So it was Steven Ruiz and a lot of other guys. I'm sure Austin had a hand in it. You just ask him about it when you get home. But anyway, they had so everybody loves to compare Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, right? Because they had that they're in the same draft class. But they had, I think Justin Herbert ranked 3 and Josh Allen ranked 5. And they're of all the, kind of physically, freakish quarterbacks, they're the 2 that at least in my opinion, are the most similar, right? In terms of size, house or arm, ability to run. 3 and 5, who would you rather? Josh Allen or Justin Herbert?
I like that.
Because I haven't really heard that debate before, but it seems it's being similar as players, that debate should happen more.
Josh Allen is a much better runner, in my opinion. Not to say that Justin Herbert can't run, but Josh Allen can make guys miss and shrug off defenders at a far higher rate than Herbert. Herbert, you give him a lane and he can go, but Allen can create. So give the edge to Allen in that regard. I mean, the fact that Herbert's been so good, so young, though. He's going into the year 3. Josh Allen going into year 3, we weren't even.
Yeah, that was when he made the leap. And I mean, you can argue that Herbert already made shit didn't even have to make a leap. He was just there.
So I don't think it's crazy, honestly. Like I think I don't want to shit on the Bills too much. I'm gonna say it's a tie. I wouldn't rather pick any of them. I don't want to choose. I'd go Herbert. Just at the age factor. I mean, like doing it that young, where can the ceiling go? Shit, I don't know. We'll see. But excited to see. All right, unit. And this one's more than just a unit. We're doing whole rosters here. 2 teams traded away their franchise quarterbacks from the past decade plus this offseason. Falcons or Seahawks? Which roster would you rather have at this very moment?
Yeah, so like on some of these questions and voicemails, when I've been quiet back here, it's because I've been looking at the rosters trying to decide, because this one's tough.
Dude, it is, right?
This is tough.
So I'll just give it like a little breakdown.
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of, you're looking at rookie talent, guys on young contracts you can build around. AJ Terrell, corner for the Falcons. You got obviously Drake London, who they just drafted, who's kind of TBD. Kyle Pitts, who's, over 1,000 yards as a rookie, kind of an elite safety. Seahawks, on the other hand, don't have a lot of, I would say, rookie talent. DK Metcalf just signed his deal. So he's, on that long term. You got Charles Cross at left tackle, who TBD how he goes. But then pretty much everyone else, whether it's Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, those are second contract guys. Your other ones, even Rashad Penny at this point, second contract guy. So I'm leaning Falcons on this one, but it's a debate.
Wait, are we talking like today, right now?
Yeah.
Like if
what would you rather have to go for? Not like who's going to win. I'm saying like who would you rather have
moving forward
as your team? Yeah.
Oh, then I agree with you, the Falcons, because like you said, the first thing I looked at was the pass catchers and the DBs, and you already kind of touched on that, like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, maybe Desmond Ritter's good. I mean, we don't know, but like if he somehow hits, or even if he's decent, like you could build off of that. And then, I mean, I know Casey Hayward's not exactly young, but like he's still probably got a few years in him. Yeah. You go Casey Hayward and AJ Terrell, like that's a decent little core right there. But I mean, if you look at the Seahawks roster, like, I mean, if they were playing right now, they'd probably the Seahawks defense is like led by your boy Nick Ballore.
I was gonna say, if they had Nick Ballore,
like their defense is like solid.
If they had Nick Ballore in a longer term contract, we could talk about going forward, but they don't. Only his contract's up after this year, so we shall see. Yeah, I think I'm leaning Falcons heavy there. All right, what's your next?
All right, so this one I'm kind of gaming the system a little bit here, because it's unit, right? So rather than positional unit, I'm saying, like, we talked gambling, a unit, like what would you rather place a unit on? And I'm going to throw the interception odds up here. So I'm going to say, and this is DraftKings Sportsbook, by the way. Shout out DraftKings Sportsbook. Jameis Winston plus 1,300 or Davis Mills plus 1,000 to lead the league in interceptions. Where would you rather place your unit?
I'm not placing it in any of them, or KJ Jefferson for that matter. But on them, I'd probably rather go Davis Mills. I think Jameis Winston got, to stay on the theme, neutered last year. I do. I think they really succeeded in reeling him in taking away that Jameisness that makes him, a multiple-time leader in interceptions in the NFL, I believe.
Yeah. My only theory there was just like these other, right? Like Zach Wilson's not going to do it because
the one I love in that bet is Kenny Pickett. If he ever sees the field, he's way low down those odds.
But that's the thing. Like Jameis, I don't think they're going to pull Jameis, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't.
Oh, actually, you know what? They would, because you know who's behind it.
Trevor Siemian?
Andy Dalton.
Oh, Dalton's there now.
Yeah.
Whew.
But right,
yeah.
I mean, maybe Trevor Lawrence, he's not going to get pulled, but I could see Justin Fields getting pulled, right? That's not their guy.
They're not pulling Davis Mills, so they got Kyle
Davis. There's no one left behind Davis.
I do like Davis Mills.
Those are the two guys that are interception prone.
Yeah.
That would probably just be out there through thick and thin. Yeah. Right? You have 28 interceptions. Oh well, you're starting week 17.
Yeah, Davis. Excited to see how he plays. All right, my last one here, a little random one. Would you rather have the Bengals' current roster as constructed with their contracts, or you get the entire first round of next year's draft on rookie contracts that they're going to have signed. The entire first round.
Yeah.
Now, for like just as a fan purpose going forward, not obviously to win right now or to win next year, just which one would you rather have?
So this is just rooting interest, right? I'm not like, I can't.
Well, like, yeah, which one's going to probably be more successful in the long term in terms of championships, playoff appearances in the next decade, we'll say.
Can I trade guys?
Of course. You have the whole first round.
Okay, then I'll take the first, like, in no disrespect to my Bengals, but I'll trade like 2 of the quarterbacks or whoever and get an established, right? I'll trade Joe Burrow back to me with the first rounders on rookie deals and then just build from there. Yeah, that's easy. But again, I'm kind of gaming the system here.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
you know what I'm saying?
I do think
if I could just trade, if I could just wheel and deal
let's
freely.
say you can't trade any of the first rounders. You just have to keep all of them on their rookie deals though. And then you can build the roster around them.
Then I'm probably going, shit, I don't know.
It's tough because you can sign free agents.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need a calculator. I need the rookie wage scale in front of me and a calculator and like add that up.
So like the top 5 picks are still kind of, they're not cheap, shall we say? Like they're not. You're not saving a ton. You're probably not going to draft more than a couple QBs. I guess you could draft 3 QBs if you really wanted to.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if you could trade those guys, you could trade for a veteran, and then you got a bunch of like good players on rookie deals. And again, like you're kind of cheating, but that would work.
I think if you have to keep the rookies, I think you're still having a better chance with that of winning the Super Bowl, because then you could sign a lot of veterans still. You can fill out a good roster of about 7 highly priced free agents to smooth out that roster.
You could sign the trenches, probably, which is what you probably would need.
Like if you got if you backed into somehow a 2011 NFL draft, or even 2020 was insane, where you had Penei Sewell, where you had Rashawn Slater, like you already, like year 2, you already have, one of the best tackle duos in football. You got a Trevor Lawrence in that draft. Like you have all this talent, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, like you're ready to get one of the best, receiving cores in the NFL. Be interesting. Yeah, that's my last one. You got the last one?
Yeah, I do. So this is Would You Rather. And again, I just saw this and I thought it would be a cool talking point. So like, I guess I'll phrase it as would you rather. So again, let me backtrack here. DraftKings has a prop. Any player to bet to break the record for most pass yards in the regular season. Would you rather bet yes or would you rather bet no? Again, I saw it and I just thought, and it's less about like the odds, more so just like, 54-77 is the number. And like we have Tom Brady projected for like 5,300 yards.
Yeah.
And there's like realistically like 5 or 6 guys that could, like, with a 17 game season now and the offenses that they're in, like there is a pretty good chance that, not pretty, but like there's like a very realistic chance that that could happen. And I just thought that was a good talking point. So phrase that however you would like for Would You Rather.
And I do think this year more so than any other, and maybe not any other, but this year for certain, there's been a proliferation of quarterback talent to where there's going to be a lot of good offenses. Where if you are
with good receivers, right? Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, all in good. Matt Stafford.
Yeah. And if you are one of those teams,
good receivers,
you're not just going to be able to win games, 27-13. You're going to have to put up 40 in a lot of these games, in a lot of these matchups to win. So, what were the odds again? What's the odds for yes? What do I get?
Let me throw it back up here. So it's plus 350, or no, excuse me, plus 250 yes.
Let's go yes.
Minus 350.
I'm going yes.
And that's what I'm saying. Like it just seems like the value's good there. But again, it was just more for the. I
like it
for the argument. Yeah,
I like it. All right, there you have it. The Would You Rather segment. On Monday, we'll be doing a little NFL recap. Week 1, finally fucking here. Thank you, God. All right, see you guys then. Till next time.